So I remember my first time going to Kudan, Parksville. We're now entering camp season. It was my first time away from Albany, New York, where I went to Maimonides.
Mm-hmm.
I give a lot of credit for all of my everything. Rabbi in his school. And
Top of your class, yeah.
top 3 in my class, yes, graduate. And I landed in this camp, and I had no idea where my suitcases were. And there was some guy with a clipboard yelling that everybody should go into the shul. And I went into the shul. I sat down and I looked around and I just said, "Oh my God, I didn't realize there were that many from kids."
Like more than 3.
I knew there was a lot of kids in New York, and I went to the Rabbi. I saw people.
Right.
I never sat in a room with that many kids.
Right. It was like hundreds of kids.
Hundreds of kids. It was the most wild experience. And the next thing was an Erev Shabbos when bedside inspection happened. And the head counselor walks inside with his clipboard, and he goes straight to my cubby, points at it, and in the most loudest, sternest voice says, "Whose cubby is this?"
Poor little boy from Albany.
Tucked in t-shirt. I said, and he says, "This is the way every cubby should look in this bunk."
Oh, wow.
I almost had 3 heart attacks. And I think this illustrates to me, every child's background, upbringing, where they come from is very different.
Oh, yeah. It's very interesting because I had a very similar experience going to actually Parksville as well.
Love you, Parksville.
very similar experience where it was bedside inspection and the head counselor comes in and he actually walked straight over to my cubby. He took all my stuff out and threw it into the middle of the bunkhouse on the floor and said, "This is the most disgusting cubby I've ever seen. Fold it all again and put it away." And I said, "Oh, okay." I'd never folded anything in my whole life. I didn't know.
Counselors trying to bring you into the fold.
Yeah, there you go. So I guess we had very similar.
My point was that where you come from and your upbringing is very different. In other words, I think that many of the kids in that bunk kind of were expecting that and maybe weren't, or maybe that approach back then. I mean, now Baruch Hashem camps are run very differently. For the most part, I think neither of our experiences would have happened. It was a remarkable entry to the big city world, this thing. And I think that, the Faith Camp does talk about different upbringings, different financial status, different.
So, but in a large camp setting like that, they don't care. They don't know where a kid comes from. They don't know that, oh, wait, this kid has a cleaning lady at home and he has no clue. You have to somehow have the counselors be involved and know each kid and figure out how you're going to train each kid into folding their stuff. Like you obviously had some sort of training or some knowledge in folding clothes and putting them away in a cubby.
Or I just never changed my clothes and they were still folded for my mother.
You got them into your cubby without ruining them. I couldn't have done that. By the time it came out of the suitcase and into the cubby, it would have been all unfolded and messed up and upside and sideways.
Okay, so first of all, I don't know the answer to your question. I think we could bring on some camp directors here and add that to the kind of podcast. I think it's important.
Yeah.
And right now I'm very focused on camp training and all that. But I think camps are getting better and better. I got a phone call from at least 2 or 3 camps asking me about the students in my school.
Yeah, it's amazing. Me too.
So I think they are. I do believe that nowadays we are much more focused on understanding which kids fit together better academically in learning class.
Right. And asking detailed questions too, about what they learned this year, how they get along with friends, even about not just academic questions, but like social questions.
And I think there is also an awareness that, you don't put, 2 lamplighter boys to a lamplighter bunk just by themselves. Like that wouldn't happen.
Because the lamplighter kids would be overwhelmed by the lamplighter kids.
Yeah, it's just, well, I think there is a difference. Like
different.
Rabbi says, there's a
you already have like a clique and thing going on.
Whatever, it can happen, and not that there's not problems in all schools, and that there's not great kids in all schools. I think they are different. I think different cultures.
Right, different cultures.
But I think that was
no shade at Olitera or at Lamplighters.
No.
They're both great places. My friend who's a teacher in Olitera, I mean, he's a totally different energy. You have a kid coming off the bus where you're just shoved in by his mother, and some guy on the street drunk threw a glass bottle at the bus, and he's like little innocent kid just gets the energy. And by the time they come to the classroom, they're full of anxiety and then they're trying to learn something. You're trying to You have to first calm them down and go through everything, and just a totally different energy, versus if you come to a small town, a small school where the kids are being driven.
An hour.
I guess,
In New York also could
in
be
New
an
York
hour.
also could be a long time to
Yeah,
get there, and it could be
yeah.
more like bus and headache by the time they get there, whereas a lot of shluchim are driving an hour and a half even, which is totally wild each way. Unbelievable Mesiras Nefesh to get their kids to school, but then they're coming from these calm and peaceful backgrounds. But sometimes being told, so much praise by all the people in their Chabad house, and how they're the star of the show over there, and then they get to school, and you have to follow that act where they're constantly being told how amazing they are, and now they're arriving at school and they're just another kid. They're not the star of the show in their
Right,
Chabad on campus or
right.
whatnot.
Yeah, and then, socioeconomic status in school is very different than at home.
Right, but just to stick on the big city versus small city thing, my father once asked Uri Perlman from Wilkes-Barre. He asked him, "What do you see the difference between kids from a big city versus a small city?" He said, "Very interesting." He said that the level of trust, like the a kid from a small city, small town, will trust the teachers, trust the educators much quicker than somebody from a big city already learned distrust.
Why is that? Just because there's so many more people, I guess you lock your door 5 times.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
people are put up barriers when there's just so much going on. There's also more crime. There's more
That's
danger. They
very
are
interesting.
exposed to different situations, different people, different things.
That's
So
fascinating.
they have to put up more walls, and that's fine. They end up being safer. Who gets scammed more often? You could do a study on that, perhaps. Who's more likely to get scammed? The kid who grew up in Brooklyn with the concrete jungle, or a kid that grew up in the middle of Missouri somewhere?
That's an interesting question.
Yeah.
Right? So what does this mean to parents, teachers, and things? How do we make sure that we're hitting every kid? Like,
Well, first of all,
how do you make sure that you're not yelling at the Albany kid?
right.
Yeah,
But first of all, even when you're giving advice from one school to the next, there has to be a recognition that what works for us at Lamplighters is not necessarily going to work in Olaterra.
my
In
Rabbi
Olaterra,
and I are great friends, and we have great respect for each other. At least I have for him. Rabbi Lustig always tells me, it reminds me that my whole school fits into 2 of his classes. And it is. It's a different world. It's a totally different world. I don't know how they do what they do. Like, I don't.
yeah, yeah, it's different, but the rules stay the same. Implementation vastly different.
And that would be the same. Would be true for like a young child. Teaching a young child and teaching an adult is the same rules.
The rules are the same if you're teaching an 80-year-old man or a 2-year-old kid how to potty train, you're teaching an old man to stop yelling at people. It's the same rules. You got to be patient. You have to teach in a way of calm, where the mind is settled, where people are ready to absorb. All those things are true. Now the implementation is different. Yeah. Maybe the kids will trust you much more eagerly if you're from a small town versus a big city. You got to be maybe more regimented. You got to have more of a system and more of security to make them feel safe. That there are these rules in place and there are these systems in place. Whereas if you're from a small town, it could be more like a bit of a Malav Malka. It could be more trust and more everybody come together. We'll have a circle now, and everyone's going to share something that might not work in a larger city because the kids are not ready to open up so quickly and just talk to you about what's going on. It's just a different energy. Same idea though. They're going to learn through a calm environment. The question is how to get there, how to achieve that. And each one has its advantages. Kids in the big city have tremendous advantage in that they have that hustle and bustle and ready to go, and they can come like they describe. People come from Brooklyn, go to another place, and they just take over the city. And the kids from a small town have an advantage that they could learn how to be more friendly, how to build deeper relationships
There's
sometimes.
also culture. I'm saying the Crown Heights culture has a lot of ruchnius. There's a lot of good stuff there. As I know, my nephews, they just they Tanya, one of my nephews, like it's just
Amazing.
amazing. And it wasn't only him. There was a whole
A huge
podium.
energy behind
Right.
everything,
Yeah.
right?
So many. How many kids get the Chazer Yudbei Sprakim into a small school?
Right,
You automatically magnify that.
right. I found that when teaching originally years ago, teaching a small group of just 7 or 8 kids, and it was so hard. Then when we upped it later in the year. join the 12 kids together. Now we finally have a class. We can create an environment. Yeah. Exactly. You can have an avir. You can have like a real energy in the classroom about something new, something exciting. There's a real buildup. And the same problem with kids that are homeschooled. It's often a major challenge for them to go from that homeschool, calm, peaceful environment. They have certain advantages that they're getting lots of love and care. At the same time, often there's social challenges.
Well, so let's use that as the example. So teaching a 5-year-old who goes to a kindergarten in a big city, there's 25 kids, social skills, or teaching a 13-year-old who's going to a school for the first time and now has those same social skills. They never had to deal with it until now.
Right.
So it's the same system. It's the same idionim that they're learning, but the method is so different. And maybe we're not clued into that. Oh, wait, this boy needs to learn how to get made fun of, how to not be the best at something, how to take turns. They never have to take turns.
Even like a 3-year-old being in a Crown Heights intense environment is going to come home perhaps more assertive, more aggressive sometimes. Yeah, you have to recognize
and when channeled, it's more confident and more confident and more ready to go out there. And
I remember my first time at my in-laws' house for Shabbos, and I'm going to wash my hands for Until Sedayim, and I hear a little voice from behind me, "Hey, yo, what's going on?" And I turn around and I look, and there's a little 3-year-old kid, and he looks me straight in the eyes, and he says, "I hate you." Okay, this is a different vibe. He's leaned into this Brooklyn energy over here. Obviously, he was just going for the attention, but I don't know if he was back home in San Diego or somewhere else, like a small little town, if he would have that same energy when you come to talk to him, versus when he's already in this like intense environment and he wants attention. He might come with a little extra aggression that he's learning in school over there.
This is this is interesting. This is dig deep into makes a child who they are. Like, they talk about nature, nurture. What makes a child who they are? Like, where does it come from? And what might look like aggression to one type of kid might be confidence and self-worth in another kid.
Another kid that got that same yelling at when they arrived at camp might have been so proud. There's a economic background where the kids has money at home. There's what their parents do for a living. If they're shluchim or balabatim, or they work in Kodesh, or they're working as an accountant. It's a huge difference. There's other things like
and also there's even
big city, small city we were mentioning.
But even like there's the social accountant that comes home and learns 3 hours a night. And there's the shliach that comes home at night and is finally able to figure out what happened in Israel and Iran today.
Right.
So there's even
with the game within the game.
Right, game within the game. There's also
what the kid is seeing at home.
The kid is seeing at home is super impactful, of course, and in school. Both ways.
That's actually an interesting perspective on like what the kid sees might be different than what everybody knows.
One of my first shluchim for bringing when I was in Chicago was with the Rabbi Elias in Silverberg. Yeah, that's what he said. He said, "You're busy the whole day giving shir. You're literally tired the whole day. You're talking to people. You're kadesh, putting on film with people. You come home, and all you want to do is 20 minutes. You want to just look at your phone." He says, "That's the only 20 minutes your kid sees." And then he goes to bed. What does my tati do? He goes
to looks on the phone.
It's a very powerful thing. It's something that I definitely can work on more myself.
Right.
Your
kids see you all day doing Kodesh as well.
The ones that are in school, but I'm saying, but if there was, but even like really try hard to make sure to set aside time for limud with every kid. Even if it's a few minutes, what does Tati want to do with me once in time? Like, what is super? It's challenging.
And how does a person who doesn't know how to learn do that for their kid?
Exactly.
I love what you told me from Rabbi Lustig about.
We do now. I do now in my class also. Rabbi Lustig has a shir.
For Gemara. No. He said your 8th grader comes home and wants to tell you the Gemara. Just listen. Just listen. You don't have to follow. You don't have to. Just listen. Say fantastic, great job, and that's it. Move on. You don't have to start analyzing and learning the Gemara and just think, oh, I can't listen to the Gemara because I don't know it myself. This, that, the other. Just listen. Be proud of your son that he learned Gemara today. It didn't make any sense. Okay, say that it didn't make any sense. Just listen, and you'll encourage the kid to learn Gemara.
100%. No, but Rabbi also, I think, has a share for the parents in the
That's what,
Gemara.
right?
And we started doing that on a voice note. Every day,
You explain it,
I
right?
just leave a quick 5 minute share on what we learned today, so
Right.
that you can follow along, listen to it, and then follow along with your kid, and hopefully you'll be able to piece
Right.
together what's.
And again, you're reading the Gemara inside, or you're just saying the overview?
Say no.
Saying the
Yeah.
overview of what happened.
What we learned today, and then you can see it in the words, hopefully.
Right. Amazing for a parent who actually listens to that and actually.
Parents really appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's good for me too, and I started actually doing it with the kids. I'm leaving a voice note now, and it becomes like a little recap of what we learned today.
Oh, in class you're
In
doing
class,
it? You're
look,
telling them I'm going to
the
send your
notes,
parents?
but yeah, but I think that's, but the idea, yeah, the bridging of the home and but yeah, you're right. You know, some parents are able to do the chazara. Some parents work till after the kid goes to sleep. They don't even see their kids.
Right. I mean, it's the same thing with
Yeah.
major issues, though. Let's say one kid comes from a not religious home,
No, for sure.
and they're watching TV all the time and basketball, and the other kid comes from a home where they're totally
TV is the worst word.
yeah, and you're gonna get up, and what are you gonna say? If you say that TV is okay, it's not so bad. This kid's gonna be like, wait a minute, let me try this out. The Rabbi said it's fine. I know I'm a parent. And if you say TV is the worst thing in the world, what are you telling the kid? You're telling the kid that his parents are evil and that he lives in a terrible home and he feels bad about the whole situation. It's not even gonna have a kibbutz of aim. It's like a whole disaster over here. What do you tell him? You have to find the proper method to educate both children, which is the truth. I think transparency is usually the best. Like, listen, this is what how we understand. This is what the Arabim teach us. And I remember Rabbi Marmelstein told us that he had, when the Rebbe spoke about TVs, how TV is Avodah Zarah, a kid went home, took his TV and threw it out of the fourth-story building, just chucked it on the ground. Can't you can't hide from the truth, but you also have to give a disclaimer and explain that it's important to be respectful to our parents. It's
sensitivity that everybody's yeah. Also, I like the elevator story.
Okay.
Maybe it's the Rabbi Marshall. I don't know. But the two people get into an elevator. One's on the bottom floor and he has the 420 pushed, and one goes into 420 and he has the elf
Right.
button pushed. Who's higher? Right. So, you know, is you know
Where are you moving? Where are you heading?
let's pick something positive. Is Yaakov Shweki good music to listen to? Depends which floor you're on and which floor you're pushing and where you're going, and it's not so simple. It's not.
Right.
There's not a one size fits all answer, and
Right.
you have to be sensitive to that.
To where each kid is holding and what is it. I mean, the same thing with learning in class, right? You shouldn't expect your students to know how to learn or to have the same better standards of Yiddishkeit even than their parents. You shouldn't expect that. You should hope that. You should believe in them that they can. But it's obvious that you look at the parents, how they are. That's how your students are going to be. Don't be all mad that the kid's watching sports and talking about sports in school. If his parents are, that's just an obvious thing. Of course, he's going to talk about sports. So you come to school happy that he's only talking about sports and he's not talking about anything worse. That's already normal. He's living the standard. You want to improve on that. You want to make him even better. It's a huge chiddush for a kid to be greater than their parents is an unbelievable thing. And the same thing with the kid who comes from an amazing home. You shouldn't just be uh, happy with him that he's learning and he's involved. He has to go even higher because he's from a Chassidish home. So you expect even more and more and more from him. And you don't expect, you believe that he could do more and more and more.
Give space for, yeah.
Give space for a higher achievement. And you be okay with one kid holding here and one kid holding here without putting down either one or saying that this one is intrinsically better. That each one, every neshama is precious. Every neshama is here for a reason.
How does it play out when a child is talking about a TV show in the front of a class? For him, it's that's what he's experiencing,
right?
And
we have to analyze what's the problem with that.
Well, so what a complaint that I've gotten from other parents is I don't want my kid hearing that.
So the problem is exposure to bad midas, to bad things.
Or my kid's gonna want to think there's this exciting thing called the TV show or this movie or this video game. So he's gonna be yearning for it now. It's in his head. Everybody's playing it, or many people are playing it, and I want that. There's a certain either it's either Mayim Genuvim Taku, right? It's not allowed, so it's even more exciting. Right. You don't want to get that, go on that road, and then or it's even if it's allowed, but not for me. How does that work? And I think it's important that our children know that they're different, and that different is good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I grew up always just Freemans are different. Well, why can't we have a PlayStation? Why can't we have games? Oh, Freemans are different. And some people are worried, why, you're telling your kids that they're better than everyone else? Yeah, it's okay. It's okay to tell your kid that in a certain way they have a mile than everyone else.
The other kid has more money.
Brokenness, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to be superior in a certain way. Yes, don't sweat it. It's okay. Each person has their miles, and it's okay to embrace yours and to tell your child that we are in a certain way better, higher, that we have higher expectations, that we have higher beliefs, and that we're connected to something higher.
And I think in a classroom that can be also highlighted. In other words, we are different. And maybe because we're different, there are some family rules, there's some community rules, some expectations that are global.
Okay, you could say, okay, we're not talking
But
about
it's not.
how much of a difference does that really make?
Well, I think I think it's a good chinuch to know that people are different and that there's different expectations for different people. That's the real world. When you get older,
Again, you want to educate the kids into the real world, right?
In the real world, there are rabbanim who don't eat at certain restaurants, but they will tell you that it's okay to eat at them.
Right. And the same thing going to shul. You might say, oh, everyone's talking about the basketball game. How am I supposed
Exactly.
You have the same time to talk about the basketball score when you're an adult and you're surrounded by these people too. If anything, it's a perfect breeding ground, perfect training ground to train.
People are different, but still,
We're different, and we try going higher.
And in our environment, we're trying to cater to the highest common denominator. We want to be respectful to other people's differences. That's an important thing to learn, to be respectful to other people's differences.
Right.
So
if there's one kid in the school that has
a vegetarian, let's use a kind of example. A vegetarian comes to my house. My wife is going to say, just so you know,
the vegetarian option.
But
they don't make everybody eat vegetarian, no.
Or they might say the potatoes are cooked in the chicken. So I want you to know that.
Right, but it's an interesting thing. Let's say one kid has a standard where we only listen to Nagunim in our house, and another kid, what are you talking about? Let's play Avrumi. It's not a big deal. And the teacher is stuck in between because the teachers are on a trip, whatever, and we want to know what to play. Do we have to go with the highest standard? Are we going with the middle standard? Obviously, we're not going to start playing non-Jewish music or something. But what is the standard that we have to go on this road trip now?
What a great chinuch moment to allow ourselves to discuss that and to listen and say, wow, isn't that interesting that two people are trying to do the right thing? This person wants to listen to only Christian music because he wants to do the right thing.
Only Nagunim, right?
Only Nagunim. And this guy wants to only listen to Daven also because it's a song that inspires him and that makes him feel connected and happy and Jewish.
Right. I mean, that's one scenario. Another scenario, the parent calls you and tells you, please only play Nagunim in the car.
And again, so I don't think I'm too old to learn new things. So I think all parents, we could all learn and discuss things and grow from that. But I think that that's a beautiful thing to be able to work on.
Right. Obviously, you have to find the balance and have discussions with the kids.
So my new thing is talking about red lights. This is my new mashal for this. For me to get to school on time, red lights are a terrible idea. Red lights do not work for me. If I was going to school by myself, it would be a really good idea to get rid of all the red lights. Okay. And for me, green lights are the best way for me to get to school.
Wow.
However, I'm part of a community, I'm part of a city, part of a world, and there's other people driving. And therefore, we need to have...
selfish of them to be driving on.
To have red lights and green lights. We need both. And so in a classroom, in a family, in an environment, there's going to be certain rules that are going to be red lights. They're not good for me. They're not good for you. For you, the best thing would be for you to be able to bounce up and down on a ball while you're learning. That would absolutely be the best thing for you and me. But because we're part of a class and other people can't learn in that environment, so we're not going to allow you to have that. We're giving you a red light. Sometimes
it's a very tough pill to swallow
but there's so many rules like that. You can't just go to the bathroom whenever you want. There's only 2 bathrooms.
Right. It's the fact of life.
This is real. In the real world, there's red lights. I think it's a good mashal. I think people understand that. There's more Chassidish mashal if you want. Or I want to daven Shemona Esrei. And the best place for me, the siddur is the perfect height is on the bimah. But right now, it's Kriyas Atayah. Because you're part of a community, the rule doesn't work, right? You want a sports mashal, because we just said sports. I want to take a nap on first base. It's a big fluffy pillow. It works. It's a perfect place. I'm tired. There's a game going on.
I've seen it happen.
I think people do understand that in the real world, things that work best for me don't work necessarily in a family, in a community.
Does that mean that a kid who has such a great ideal that they only listen to the Kudan out at their home, now when they go to school, sometimes have to lower their standard, chas v'shalom, and now listen to Shweki or Eighth Day or whatever it is?
I'm not on the board of any school, Baruch Hashem, but
Tough decision.
that is a very, very difficult conversation, but it's a very important conversation. But the important part of the conversation is that what we're doing is we're putting on red lights on somebody.
Somebody's taking.
Someone's getting a red light, and someone's going to get a green light,
Right.
and that is what the conversation should be at all levels. The children should know that there's different music that people are different comfortable with. If you're uncomfortable with music, please tell Rabbi, let me know so that we can adjust as best we can. And yeah, we're gonna have to deal with that.
Right. I mean, it also comes down to food, like Lay's chips, the non-bishul Yisrael.
Listen, I organized a trip for the Kudan, the West Coast trip. People came over to me. It was very nice. A bunch of cameras came over to me and said, "What type of shkita is this?" And it was so beautiful. And I looked at them and I said, "First of all, I just want to say, wow, it's so beautiful. You're on a trip. You're able to come over to me, despite everything else, and say, I'm only eating what I'm eating. That's really, call it come out to you. That's really amazing. That's amazing. That's great." And then we went inside the kitchen. We found the wrappers, and we made sure it's but we had a pretty high standard. But the point is that as time goes on, even Lubavitch Shkita now, there's 2 different Lubavitch Shkitas. Right. That's a new thing in my lifetime. Right. So now we have, this is real, as we said. This is what you call it. You got to go for it. Real life. No, it's a playground for the real world. What do you say? A breeding ground for the real world. Yeah. So real life. This is we all deal with this as an adult, as a child.
Yeah, I guess you always want to do whatever you're doing in a way that mimics real life. I say that to my students. If 2 kids come to me with a machlekes, I say, "Okay, what do you guys decide? Like, do you guys work on figuring it out on your own? I don't want to get involved in your argument. Like in real life, you're not going to go over to your teacher every time you have a dispute with a kid.
And what if we
figure it out?
And what if we took it the next step? What's the ideal? When Mashiach comes? How's that going to look? When Mashiach comes,
when the kids want to get into the van,
when all the kids in the house want to play with one toy, I find that I would love to know the medical.
Mashiach comes, it would be nice to have him.
Maybe. It says that Madonna Mitzuyim Kafar. So I understand that is that dainties are going to be like dirt.
Dainties, delicacies.
What's your
Eden is the cherish. I mean, enjoyment, the ultimate pleasure.
That's what it is.
The ultimate pleasurable.
Those boxes of chocolates you get from Purim where they're individually wrapped. That's
Eden for you.
That's dainty.
Oh, okay. That's my Adanim.
Right. So
I don't know. It sounds like Kleina Hasagas.
That's all I need. I just need a wrapped.
You need a
nugget filled
with chocolate. That's all.
That's my entire right now. Okay, but anyway, the point is that it's a lullaby. But my point is that we can look at when Mashiach comes. How's it going to work? There's going to be one toy, and what's going to happen? There's no competition. There's no kina. There's no jealousy. There's going to be a system where everybody's going to be able to take turns without strife. What does that look like? Like, isn't that a cool thing for kids to?
I don't know. I don't know if it's a good mashal. I don't know. Maybe there's just going to be nice hafkim or something.
You think there's just going to be automatic?
Everything's going to be resolved for us, and we won't have to figure out our own problems anymore. Good. But now we do have to figure out our own problems, and we train our.
I have seen kids take turns. I've seen kids live peacefully without Kina and Sakros with one toy.
Right.
I've seen it happen.
Yeah. I think the more you resolve the issue for them, the more intense it becomes. Like when the kids are trying to find places in the van, I just say, okay, figure it out.
I agree with you. Yeah.
I'm not getting involved. And they go, oh, Rabbi, he got the zebra. Okay, fantastic. And what do you want from me? Why is this my problem? You guys have to, when you're an adult and you get on the bus, is somebody's going to tell you a system for how to decide where each person sits?
And then also to acknowledge the people that were leaders in that and to be very specific about that. Okay. Someone spoke up and offered a suggestion. The suggestion included him giving up his seat, and the problem was resolved. That's
and also to find the boundaries that adults have. For example, like using hands is an arrestable offense. That's called assault and battery. Or in Torah, that's like a definitive thing where you have to already pay
a lot.
lot of money for slapping front hand or backhand, knees, elbows, the back of a shovel, whatever it is. Each thing there's a knas, and the tove ear could already decide. Yeah, they can lock you up. They can, and these are serious things. No, we don't use hands. This is a separate boundary versus arguing and taking a seat. Now you step in, and the kids will learn that this is the moment when your teacher steps in.
That's when the police step in.
When the police step in, exactly. When, okay, we have to make an incident report, have to come, we have to stop everything, we have to make a big deal out of this because somebody chas v'shalom used their hands. This is a very big deal. And that way you don't get to adults that chas v'shalom are using their hands in shul or other things, which unfortunately we have seen too often. People using their hands. Using hands is absolutely. And if you're stepping in beforehand, then the kids don't see that using hands is a big escalation. Because you see, when we were yelling at each other, he stepped in.
Right.
And also when we use hands, he stepped in. Whereas when you don't step in, when they're just arguing with each other and yelling and screaming at each other, even if they're calling each other names, not necessarily do you always have to step in, even if they're bullying, whatever that means, or they're saying mean things to each other, you're not stepping in. And now when there's hands, you do step in and you clarify. Saying not nice words is not okay, but using hands is a whole nother category.
Love it. One of the things that my wife has been very aware of recently, and therefore I am, is not to take away something from a child's hands. Sometimes they're fighting over something, and the adult comes and rips it away from them.
Because he's stronger.
So what are you teaching them?
Called Alam Gavar.
Yeah, he's just trained. It's literally, I don't know if it's assault and battery, but it's definitely a violent crime. It's literally ripping away the person's purse. Why? Because I can, because I'm stronger. It's
in an emergency situation.
Okay, fine, obviously. But just like a kid takes away a doll from another kid. As an adult says, hey, you can't do that. Boom, give it back. You literally, what are you teaching the kid? Right? So the kid thinks it's his turn also. It's very interesting. So she won't do it. She won't, and that same idea, like she will wait for the conflict to be resolved properly, even though it might take time, and she'll take the other kid, and
it takes a lot of patience. If you have a class of 25,
a lot of patience. Also takes an incredible
kids.
Belief in the children that they can do it. And I've watched it happen in my home. I've watched it happen in the classroom. You just focus on the positive. Come here. Tell me what's going on. He doesn't want to play with you. I'll play with you. And I'll take the
and you're resolving
take the kid who nobody wants to play with. I start playing chess. 30 seconds later, everybody's watching your game. Everybody's on top of it. Want to play? Okay, fine. You can play. And just by being positive about it.
Role playing within the scenario of how to be a big boy.
And not role playing how to be a bully.
I could see it tough if you have a kindergarten class with 30 kids and now you have to resolve 6 kids fighting. Without yelling, without grabbing.
So, okay, first of all, I don't believe I get it right all the time, but it's so cool when you get it right. It's so geschmack to watch kids model your positive behavior and to know that you were not acting like a 3-year-old. It's just cool. It's very cool. And like we've said almost every podcast, chinuch is the long game. I don't need to fix this problem right now.
Yeah.
I don't need to.
Ultimately, you want the kid to grow up with proper sense.
I never saw my imagine a kid grow up saying, I never saw my parent grab something away from someone else.
You'll learn that maybe it's not okay to grab things.
And there's also a verbal affirmation of that. And especially when you notice a kid who didn't grab it and you make a big deal out of that, this kid used his words, waited his turn, came up with a solution.
You also want to be careful not to motivate the kid to grab things in the future by letting him get away with it, so to speak. One kid comes and yanks something out of the other kid's hand and runs off with it. And if you don't you let it slide.
Well, if there's no reaction, there's no reward.
There is, because now he gets to play with the toy.
And the other kid got to play with Mora.
See, it's tricky. Interesting idea.
And was happy.
Okay, fine.
And was complimented for self-control. And
looks like the big one now.
And it was the big boy.
I think that's the key. You got to make the kid look like.
That's the truth.
It's tough to do, and it's tough to feel for the kid that got this thing grabbed. It's not easy. Yeah, it's not always the knee-jerk reaction is correct. That's true.
It's also new. And just tell you, it's something that I've witnessed. My that is really good at it. Oh, really good. It's I'm not so good at it yet, but I'll get there. I think we do have this desire to fix the problem now, but are we really fixing the problem?
It's also interesting, even when you deal with these situations, sometimes you'll have one kid who comes in with these like fancy toys because he's from a rich family and he's got his action figures and he's got his Game Boy and he's got this and that and the other. And he's super proud of it. He's like, oh, you don't have anything. He puts everyone down. And then the other kid, barely has a couple snacks in his lunch. And this kid has like a whole feast going on with all the best snacks. You got to treat those two kids differently. There's no way to just come and teach.
And the teacher wants to raffle off the cup cards,
Okay.
You want to raffle off whatever you want to raffle off. You
A
want
dollar store item.
dollar store item.
And this kid has everything in the world, and this other kid is
prizes. Intrinsic prizes seem to work better. Like when you
extent. And you do. I had this conversation about rewards. There's a beautiful Sikha of the Rebbe where the Rebbe says, "What if you have a kid who's ready for his Orion finish, but he doesn't need any rewards. He doesn't need the candy. He doesn't. He loves learning his Aleph Beis already. You still put the honey. You still do the candies, Malach Michal, everything, because now you're using those things as part of the learning experience, and you're being mild of them. You're elevating all those things.
Okay.
You're elevating those candies. So even if a kid doesn't need a reward, it's actually still worth starting. Still worth starting with those prizes and those rewards because you're elevating, and you can tell it to the kid. Real reason why I'm giving prizes today. I want to elevate these prizes. These prizes now have such a zchus.
Part of Torah.
Part of the Torah learning. From Sheshis to Mibrishis, this action figure, whatever you're giving, this reward, this prize, this candy, has been waiting to be elevated by a Jewish child learning Torah to be involved in his Torah learning. What a zchus. And a bracha too, yeah, in addition. It's just a reframing changes it, where it's not cheapening the learning anymore. Because now, no, the learning is the amazing thing. The candy gets to have the opportunity to be part of our learning.
And if the candy doesn't have red number 40, that's terrible.
Now you're already putting too much limitations on our candy in America. We don't want those limitations, I don't think.
I tell you, here's a chinuch tool. Food coloring is not good for you.
Food coloring?
It's really bad.
All right.
Especially,
some people say that the food coloring is what makes the kids wild. I know that sugar definitely makes the kids wild.
I'm just telling you that try 2 weeks without food coloring. Your life's gonna be a lot better.
Interesting. All right. I guess that's a chinuch tool right there.
It's hard. It's hard because everything's got it. Like even things that shouldn't have it.
Yeah.
Like weird. Like what?
Drinks and
drinks is one thing, but like, what did I just see? Like literally, like what are you doing? Why are you putting that? Do I need the locks to be that shade of orange by that glove?
Yeah.
Not all the time.
Interesting. Okay.
All right. With that,